Welcome to another episode of Mohit's Mantra. I am Mohit Beriwala, your host. I'm an entrepreneur, an investor, and very importantly, I have a lifelong curiosity to learn. Learn how we can grow in life, in business, and in money. I sit down with people who inspire me, people who are doers, people who are thinkers, and I want to get in their strategies, their mindset, their hacks, and how they have transformed their life, and how we can use all of that to grow in life. Today, we have with us Lawrence Yeo. Lawrence Yeo is one of my favorite authors. He's also the author of The Inner Compass, and he writes online on more to that. Welcome, Lawrence, and thank you for being over here.
Yeah, sure thing, Mohit. I'm really glad to be here.
Right. Lawrence, you worked from finance and now you've integrated philosophy and now storytelling. Could you tell us about your journey?
Sure. I mean, it goes back quite a bit, but yeah, I graduated from school with a degree in international economics. Had no idea what the hell I wanted to do with it, but then I ended up in kind of the world of banking and finance, and knew early on that I felt like this was something that was going to be temporary, but it
Okay.
afforded me the ability to do what I really want to do later. So I've always kind of viewed money that way, as a way for me to build a bridge between where I'm at now and where I want to kind of eventually go. And I knew that it was in something kind of quote unquote creative.
Mm.
At first, though, I thought it was to make music because I'm a big hip hop guy. I love listening to music, and I got into music production. And actually, that was my first leap. I went into music full time, and I did that for a number of years. Was actually able to do that, and then realized towards the tail end of that it was not something I wanted to dedicate like a majority of my life towards and build as a career. So what did I do? Go back to finance because that's where I know I can make money and kind of build up whatever that nest egg may be. So I went back into finance, and it was around maybe 2 years into it where I started experimenting with writing. And with writing, it's interesting because I always was in love with ideas. I would
Mm.
always like to share things that I've learned with friends, and we go camping, we talk about these big ideas around a campfire and stuff like that. So I always felt like the limitation with music, at least in terms of making beats like I was that I couldn't express ideas. I could express emotions, but not ideas. And writing kind of felt like it was my avenue into discussing actual thoughts I was thinking about and so forth. So I started that really on a personal Medium blog. And then I later decided to incorporate illustrations into my work, decided that it was to be called a new project, and I called it More to That. I launched it in 2018, and I've been working on it ever since. I left my finance job about a year and a half or so after launch and dedicated my full attention to More to That.
How was the switch? Was it because you didn't know whether you're gonna survive or not just thrive in this uh, more to that and you quit your day job? Was it very uncertain?
Yeah, it was super uncertain. It was very uncertain. And I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying about what money represents. And I feel that I'm not a proponent of, hey, you're passionate about something and then you just jump right into it and you try to make that your living. I mean, first of all, sometimes you don't even know what you want, right? Like you have this,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have this image of, oh, I want to work on something full time. And then you actually do it and you're like, dang, I don't want to spend this much time working on this. I thought that's what I wanted. So a big part of making money in terms of like doing something that you may not be passionate about, but you have the capacity to make money in, is that it helps give you that exploratory lens on things that may not make money, but either make you feel fulfilled or content.
Bingo.
And that's really, really important, which is what I viewed finance as. And to be clear here, when I was working in my finance job, I didn't really think of it as like, oh, I hate this place. I hate that I got to get out of here and stuff like that. I was able to view it with a sense of gratitude in the sense that it was able to act as what I like to call a patron of my art. It, in the same way that the Medici family, you know, were patrons of Leonardo, they're like, hey, we'll take care of the money, you just focus on your art, right? Like, that's how I viewed my job. And the way I
Ah,
viewed it is like, I'm trading in some of my time for money, which I can then convert into attention dedicated toward my craft. So that I've always kind of viewed it that way. So I was very thankful and grateful for the fact that I had that patron to be able to fund what I'm doing. Now, it just so happened that within the first, you know, like year and a half of launching more to that, like, there wasn't a viable path to, oh, this is how you can make a living off of this. But there was a very clear signal that my work was resonating with people. And I would pay attention to those signals and that external validation. But at the same time, even bigger than that, was that I was very intrinsically motivated to do this. So this was the difference between my time as a musician and now my time as a writer, was that when I was a musician, I was thinking so much about who am I gonna work with? How do I get on that artist's album? And I was spending so much of my time thinking about that I was not really enjoying the process of making music itself. So as a result, due to that lesson, I was able to import that into when I was starting my journey as a writer. Even before I launched more to that, I spent roughly 100 hours on the very first post. And that
wow.
first post is called Travel is No Cure for the Mind.
Yes.
But I spent, 90 to 100 hours, maybe even more, on that single post. And I also wrote 2 other posts that were just as long and took probably just as long to do before I published a single one. And the reason why is that my thesis was that I have to test whether or not I really love doing this, right? Most people are not going to spend that much time on a post, and I don't do that anymore. But in the beginning, I was just thinking, what is it like if I were to spend this much time on something and there's no external validation, right? I have no audience, but just intrinsically, I don't have to worry if this thing's going to make me money because I have my patron. Thank you very much. So all that was kind of settled. All I could think of was, do I enjoy doing this? And the fact that I was able to make 3 of these with no one telling me, yeah, this is great, gave me the sense that, oh, I really do like this. I like making these little cartoons and imbuing my kind of philosophical musings and my thoughts about the human condition into this, and devoting my time here accordingly. So I kind of carried that sentiment from the beginning and really approached it that way. And it's only through like my time as a musician and learning from that I was able to import that sentiment into here and kind of follow through accordingly.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. You, I think everything is a journey, right? You learn from one thing and then you apply it to the other. Um, you didn't thrive as a musician, and you used the pain and the journey because you were always focusing on the next step and the next step and the next step. You said you didn't enjoy it, and then you used that for the writing. I love this. You use something which is absolutely amazing, which is those cartoons. Um, you said you started writing first and then you incorporated the cartoons, right? Um,
Yes.
so why incorporate the cartoons, and did it have an impact on you personally?
Yeah, I mean, the cartoons, it's interesting because those cartoon characters, I drew them when I was like 12 years old. Maybe even younger, I think. Like, I was a kid when I came up with those things. And and I think the reason why I started incorporating them into my writing was, one, there were many writers that I enjoyed that also incorporated drawings into their work. The one most people most familiar with is Tim Urban of Wait But Why. But there is also someone named Ali Brosh who wrote this blog called Hyperbole and a Half. She would incorporate drawings. There's the Oatmeal. I really enjoyed these people's work and the way that they were able to use a visual element to their work. And the second reason is that, like, I feel that a lot of goods, whether it's art or creations or whatever, is that they contain kind of paradoxes in it, and those paradoxes lead to one sense of style. So in my case, I'm writing about things that are very like heady topics, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like I'm writing about death, I'm writing about the meaning of life, I'm writing about having conviction in yourself and all these things, and that's the kind of heady adult world of things. And then I kind of thought, well, what if I kind of balance it with like these kiddie cartoons I drew when I was a child and use that to act as like simplification devices for these heady topics I'm talking about. And also as a way of just adding levity to my work. Like I still feel that no matter how old you are, there is still something about seeing an animated, like still or an image or a little short that still makes you feel a little bit of curiosity towards it, right?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to marry those two things together, and that in itself was like a paradox of two different things that it kind of works, and that kind of gave birth to my own sense of style in a way. And that's why when I decided to incorporate the drawings, I decided to call it a whole new project instead of just continuing my kind of personal Medium page. I said, nah, I think this is something new. I think this is something that I kind of stumbled across that deserves its own thing. And that's why I launched it separately and really kind of continued it from then.
It's said that words will go on to a level, music will go on to another level, but pictures, because they've come from evolution time, they will are universally transferable, and they will last longer. And I think you use the visual angle in that sense pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point where the visual component has really lasted since the dawn of humanity, right? It's like
Yes,
it's there. It's very
absolutely.
primal in a way, and
Yes, yes.
and like I think even the way it comes up now is that like most people read on their phones and stuff now, and like if you just these days I think if you go on an essay or something and you kind of just scroll a little bit and it's like all text,
Yeah,
then there's like this feels like a little bit of a slog. But if you scroll a bit and you're like, ooh, I see a drawing, and you scroll a little bit, ooh, another drawing, then it
yeah.
kind of makes you want to keep investing your attention until you get to whatever that next drawing or so forth. So I think there's also like this kind of pragmatic element to it as well that kind of works with it. So yeah, it was kind of like this nice happy coincidence and decision to incorporate them.
This is nice. Jumping back to the book, The Inner Compass, I loved reading it. You said something, and it was absolutely amazing. You said about the external noise and which is what you call as the conditioning, and then there is these inner compass. First of all, how do you go about finding your inner compass, and what exactly is the inner compass?
Well, the first thing is that most people, or I don't want to say most people, but without this element of understanding yourself or wanting to do that, you're not even aware that you have an inner compass. A lot of times it's just, you just kind of follow whatever norms you've adopted or the culture that you grew up in or the upbringing that you've had, and that kind of becomes like your operating system. I think
Absolutely.
I think like when you say that you have, just knowing that you have an inner compass, what that means is that you have something that you believe in about yourself. You have this element of conviction that may go against some of this external conditioning that's been layered upon you. And I think we all have that. We are all made aware of that at some point. The only question is, okay, well, can I act upon it? Can I do something about it? And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get stuck. So, as is the case, like I like to just visualize this component to make it really easy. And you ask what the inner compass is, you kind of just think about, you have the compass metaphor, and then essentially we're aware of this kind of true north element to it, right? Like
Yeah,
it's kind of well trodden about when you are at true north, there's this sense of conviction you have in yourself, and that you're going to follow something even when what I refer to as the winds of conditioning are blowing you away from that. And anything that pulls that pointer away from true north is what I refer to as conditioning. And across any domain of life, what's interesting is that you really have two options. You could either have conviction or you can fall to conditioning. Like a lot of times it's so clear that it falls along those two lines. And to make it a little practical here, let's say, for example, the domain of creativity, right?
Mhm.
If you're creating from a sense of your inner compass with conviction, that true north represents a pursuit of mastery. Mastery is all about, you're not looking at what everyone else is doing, you're just trying to become a better version of yourself, right? That's what mastery is. But the conditioning side is status. It's basically, you want to create because you want the fame. You're looking at what this other person is doing that has this many followers, and I got to do that in order to get there. That's what we mean by your true north being pulled away. Another place is even relationships. So your
Okay.
true north, the conviction point is love, right? And
Mhm.
love is unconditional. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you have to offer me, in a sense. But I just enjoy the fact that we have one of those company, right?
Mm.
That's kind of true conviction. Now, the conditioning side, or the other side of the compass, would be power, right? When your relationships are defined by what you can do for me and what I can do for you, because through that I will gain influence, I will gain power, and our relationships become transactional. That's all driven off of, hey, how do I get ahead and what is everyone else doing? So when you think about people you interact with, there's a lot of that. Like, can I view this person for who they are and not for what they have to offer? And so much of that line between conviction and conditioning could be found throughout any applicable domain in life.
What can I do for them as versus what can they do for me? And that's pretty interesting. And you also spoke about this, that we see them as humans, that we don't see them in their status games, like what have they achieved in life or how much money they've got, how much followers they've got. We just see them as human beings. That's very nice.
And it's very simple and very hard. A lot of times, the most simple things are the most difficult things. And what I mentioned in the book is, so there's this great quote from Krishnamurti, who I really love, where he basically said that, it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And so that guy had bangers for days.
Yeah, I think for every quote of his is like just a banger. It just, that itself is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard that, or when I read that, I was like, what causes this sickness? Like, what exactly causes that? And I did realize that it really does come down to our thirst and our just never-ending pursuit of status. And I have a chapter on status where I just talk a lot about how we have normalized it and how we have made it something that is the kind of pinnacle of our pursuits, really, and how we've almost rationalized that. And a lot of people, for example, will now say that, well, if you don't play status games, then the world's not going to have nice things, and there's going to be no technological progress because
Yes.
people won't be incentivized to create these technologies. And
I have
there's
this
yeah.
same belief. At least I used to think, or I'm still on that path, but I think that's how people just motivate themselves. This is my belief as well. So you saying that it doesn't work like that?
Well, I think that there is truth to that, but I think that people are often dishonest and they say that, well, I am doing it for the good of humanity, and I am doing this for the common good and for us to all be better off as a result. And I I kind of laugh at that, because I look at social media, for example, and what so much of the ethos of the technologists and so forth that are responsible for it is like, oh, we're just trying to create a better world, a more connected world where everyone can talk to each other and so forth, and everyone has a voice. And if that really were the case, if you're doing it for the common good, you would see things like, oh, for example, Instagram has such a negative effect on people's mental health, especially teenagers, and you see reported proof of that over and over
Yes.
again. If
Yes.
you were really driven by the common good, then you would do as much as possible to ensure that, hey, we're not inflicting any more harm and that these algorithms are more controlled in a certain sense. But that doesn't happen. Instead,
Yeah.
everyone just proceeds onward with the development, and you try to, and not only that, you try to exploit even more vulnerabilities in people's psychology,
Yes.
so you could maximize engagement and like still be on the top of the cultural zeitgeist. Like that is what people really desire. So there is a dishonesty that you're not being true to what your motives are, and the fact that you're not being true to that indicates that there is something about status that we do not want to outwardly say that's what we are chasing. It's like this kind of inward thing, but we cannot be honest about it. And there's something there that if you can't be honest about something that you think is true, then that points to some sort of vice and some sort of disease, as Krishna already puts it, that is taking hold of our society.
Um, so, um, I'll just double down on something very interesting you said. You said that the current modern world is kind of, which is, how to say this, non-genuine, and they are saying one thing, but they're actually doing another, and it's all about status games. But and my understanding is, so I want to talk to you about two things. First, how important is it to, in fact, three things. How important is it to find your inner compass, especially for non-creative fields, and how do you do that? And if you did find it, would you require solitude to be away from that from that external conditioning, or what I call it noise? And third, then why do you need external validation to grow in your pursuit of mastery?
Yeah, those are very, very good questions. And I think I'll try to answer all three of them in the form of one response.
Okay.
And I think the way I'll do that is kind of just briefly go over the framework that I provide as to what I feel like people can do to find their inner compass and to really
Okay.
follow it. Because I think it touches on all three of those questions. So I have a pretty simple framework, which is essentially reflect, relate, and create. So these are the three things that I feel like if you are able to cycle through these principles in the context of your daily life, it is not only possible, but inevitable that you will find your inner compass and also trust in your ability to follow it. So, and all three of them are necessary. So
Okay.
the first one is to reflect. Okay. So reflection really is about what are the stories and the narratives or the scripts that I'm kind of running on that I might not even be aware of, that I'm not even aware of. But the only time I'm made aware of them is like when I feel the tension that arises as a result of these narratives taking hold on me, right? And the only way that you can really delve into that deeper is you have to question it. You have to question them by asking why. Like, why is this particular script here? Because I believe that if you ask why pertinently enough, the how kind of emerges on its own, right? If you know that, for example, oh, I'm at this job that I hate, right? I don't feel, and there's nothing I'm getting out of it other than money, for example, right? If I really do feel that, like, why am I still here? Even if I have like money saved up, why am I still here? And if you ask that deeply enough, then what you'll find is that a lot of this is some sort of inherited fear that was rooted in you when you were young, or that society has kind of placed upon you that is keeping you there. And one tool that I recommend to do that is through journaling. I think journaling is one of the most powerful practices. And the reason why people kind of scoff at it sometimes is that they mistake a journal for a diary. And there's
Yes.
two very, very different things. So just to briefly touch upon that difference before I move on to the next principles, a diary is when you're just talking about like the what's of life. Okay, like what did I do today? What did I feel? And so forth. And that's when I get it when people say, what value is that there? You're just logging your experiences. A journal, on the other hand, is when you do what I said earlier, is when you ask why. So why did you do that? Why did you feel it? And why did you act that way? If you start kind of viewing your personal experiences through the context of that lens, so much insight's going to come out of it. So many amazing things are going to come out, and you'll be kind of amazed to see what comes out on the page. And it takes some cognitive bandwidth. So I'm not saying that every day has to be like this kind of journal entry where you're delving into why and so forth, but try to have some sort of blend of the two, because you'll be surprised at what you find. And you'll be surprised to see that a lot of this stuff is conditioned. A lot of these things that have been layered upon you. So that's what I mean by reflect, is that you can use a journaling practice or whatever you feel like is a practice that helps you do that to question a lot of the narratives. Now, the next point relates to your second question of, well, is this done in solitude? And this is where I feel like a lot of contemplative practices go wrong, is because they'll say, yeah, do it in solitude. You have to go to a cave or be a part of a monastery or sit and do nothing and all that stuff. But I feel like the best avenue to understanding yourself is when you do the reflection, but then you don't forget that you're also of this world, that you want to function in this world. Not only function, but you want to be able to view people in the same way that you view yourself. And I think that's what I mean by relate. And the kind of thesis behind that is that relationship is a mirror. It's such a great way to know who you are, because the way you view others reflects the way you view yourself. If you view other people as walking business opportunities, then don't be surprised when you judge your own worth based upon how much money you're making. All right? Like, it's very clear when you see it that way. Conversely, if you can treat people with compassion no matter who they are, then you could actually be pretty content when you're alone. So relationship is very important when it comes to the journey of self-understanding. And this is why, for example, the people that inspired me the most when I was at the office weren't the people that were like high on in the executive chain and they knew how to close deals and so forth. They were actually the few people that I still remember. They would talk to like the custodian, or they would talk to the cleaning staff, or all these, it doesn't matter who they were, but they would be very, very present with them. And I could see that, and it wasn't some sort of act. And a lot of times those are also the people that did quite well. And that's the other thing too, is that, you know, who would you personally respect more? Someone that tries to determine who to hang out with or who to talk to based upon their status, or someone who could do that for anybody, right? There is like this trust that comes with that. So I think that you have to combine reflection and relationship together. And the final thing is create. So create is about an actual expression of what you've learned, not just through your reflection, but also in relationship with others, because we're all learning lessons. I mean, a big part of you doing this podcast, for example, like you said in the beginning, is you're trying to share what might be in other people's minds and contextualize them through your own experience, right? And
Yes.
it's an avenue of agency. It's an avenue of you believing in what you're doing. Like, every creative act is an expression of self-confirmation, that I want to do this because I feel like there's some sort of small void or large void that can be filled with my voice. And that's such a powerful way to actually act upon what you learn through your journey of self-understanding. That it's not just kind of kept in your head or kept in just like a conversation with someone. You're actually expressing those lessons out into the world. And the more you do that, the more you find conviction. The more you find that, hey, I could just keep going forward with this and seeing what happens. And I think it's the interplay of these three principles that really helps you have a grounding in who you are and to understand yourself better as a result.
It's pretty interesting. So, if my understanding is correct, and I will just simplify it over here, ambition is external conditioning, mastery is coming from inner compass, wanting to be getting better in what you do every day.
I think, ambition, I actually have a piece just on ambition because it's such an interesting topic. but like, yes, I think loosely defined, that the framework you described is correct. The thing with ambition, though, is that I think ambition is critical to the development of a healthy mind. I think that you want to have something you want to direct your energy toward. Now, the thing, though, is that the pitfall of ambition is when you thirst for the reward instead of the act in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you kind of let go of your inner peace.
Yeah, you let go of it. And I think the best case scenario for ambition is you do something for the pursuit of mastery, and the rewards come as byproducts of that pursuit and not the chief objective. So
Yeah.
I think that was, I personally felt this when I was doing more to that. When I, for example, created that travel piece, that purely came from this desire for me to really articulate my thoughts on travel in a way where I felt like I nailed it. Like I'm trying to have that feeling of I nailed it with this. And even the subsequent pieces on knowledge, for example, and that piece you described before we went live about the sword of perception, like that was also, that one took me, I don't know, probably like same amount of time to do. But they were all driven by, I just really want to try to get this right, and also to know that I'm capable of doing it and I like doing it. And then when I published it, I was genuinely surprised as to the response. And that was kind of a nice byproduct of it. And that was it just felt really aligned in that sense.
The reflect part of it, you mentioned journaling. Any other tips or tricks or exercises which would you recommend to, go into the reflection part and finding your own inner compass and deciding, okay, hey, this is societal and this is me. The difference between that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I like to recommend people to do is just to kind of like pay attention to your body, for example. I have this belief that wherever there's tension in your body, there's a tale, or there's a story, or there's some sort of narrative. And like I've written about anxiety, for example, quite extensively. And anxiety is pretty interesting because it's a physiological sensation that arises in your body, but you attach that to a negative perception of yourself. And the example that's kind of comical I like to bring up is like, let's say you had this crazy bout of diarrhea, right? It was insane. It was and it sucks. It hurts. It's a physiological discomfort, but you don't walk out of that experience thinking, oh, like, no one likes me. No one wants to hang out with me. No one wants to be with me, right? Like,
Yes.
you could just clearly say, oh, I ate that, I don't know, that bad burrito or something, and then like
Yeah.
that destroyed my stomach, and that's it. It's you're able to divorce the physiological sensation from any psychological interpretation of it. But with anxiety, it's very different, especially like social anxiety, for example. Like you feel, whether it's in your heart or whether it's in your shoulders or your head, you feel some sort of tension arise. And then the interpretation is, oh, I need to retreat. I need to retreat
Yes.
because I have nothing valuable to say, or oh,
Yes.
everything that I say is stupid, and why am I
Yes.
here, right? So
Yeah.
the difficult thing about anxiety is not just the sensation, but the interpretation of that, which then becomes encoded into behavior. That's what makes it such a difficult emotion. So going back to the context of the inner compass is that whenever there's some sort of tension in your body, right? Like there's usually some sort of layering of interpretation that you're doing. And that interpretation, so much of the time, comes from conditioning. It comes from something that occurred in your past, or some sort of thing you've inherited. Maybe when you were young, you did some sort of dance and then people laughed at you, and that memory kind of stuck with you. And that may translate years down the line into social anxiety in certain instances. You just don't know. But a lot of the time, there is some narrative there. And then when you understand that this is all narratives, this is all stories, then the awareness of that gives you agency in the sense of, oh, I could rewrite my own story. I had the capacity to do that. Hence creativity. I think creation is such a great way to do that because it's kinetic. It actually makes you rewrite that story in some canvas rather than all in your head. And that's the thing. I didn't stop at reflect and relate because so much of that stuff could just be in your head. But with create, it's a kinetic expression. It releases it, which is what gives you this sense of like solace in a way.
You use the example of the physical anxiety and, not wanting to contribute because, hey, I don't have anything in me. That's why you kind of go back. I think you were speaking to the introvert in me. And you were saying that, Mohit, you don't have anything valuable to add. So let's retreat. So that is something very interesting. And then you realize you're not doing this because you want to give back, because you're trying to satisfy your inner curiosity of how you can learn about it. And then the conversation is not about what can you add. The conversation is about what you want to learn from that person. And I think that's being there, and I'm being your genuine self. And I think that's what transforms, or at least for me it did, is brought me out of my introversion and said, okay, I can have a conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I have to have something valuable to add, but it is something about, can I learn?
And just right there, Mohit, like that's a clear example of you rewriting a narrative, right? It's like the narrative is, hey, I'm an introvert. I don't have anything valuable to add here. And, that could have come from any number of places. But then there was this agency you had over, wait, I could reframe this. I could reframe it as, what do I want to learn from this person? And the cool part of that is that when you have this curiosity to learn and you exude that, then other people view that as an act of creativity. It's kind of cool. The reason we're here right now is because of your creative impulse, your creative endeavor, which is to talk to people, to learn from them, and to be like, hey, I like doing this, which makes me in turn be like, oh, Mohit is a curious person and he creates things, so I want to talk to him too. So it's like that little gentle reframing has ripple effects, and also has ripple effects on relationships, on how you view people as well. So all this is so interconnected, which is why I put those three principles all together.
Coming back into practical, tangible things, you said journaling. Any other things, which you say, if you start doing this right now, you will start seeing an impact in our life?
So one thing that I do, which I don't think is quite reflection, but it is a sense of just kind of stillness, is definitely meditation. I think meditation is extremely important, but not for the reasons of that people may think. It's the reason why I don't call it reflection is because like meditation is the art of doing nothing. That's all it really is. It's about having the conditioning or whatever kind of just settle down for a bit. But it's not an active exploration of that. So the active exploration is the journaling element, where you're actually trying to dig it in a little bit more. But personally, I combine the two practices together. Like I will meditate and then journal usually in the same session, because it gives me a nice kind of baseline to go off of. So, but out of all the different practices, I really think journaling is one of the most important things that you could do right now, right away. And also, if you have an issue with like the blank page, for example, a good thing to do is you can get books that have not just journaling prompts, but like meditations for each particular day of the calendar year that could help to prime your mind to start journaling. So Krishnamurti has one, for example, called The Book of Life. It's really, really good. Ryan Holiday has one called The Daily Stoic.
Yes.
Even Leo Tolstoy, he has one called Calendar of Wisdom. There's these great books where each day has like this short reflection, and that helps you that puts you in a certain mind state that helps you then put words out on the page. So that's a good place to start if the blank page kind of scares you.
So you do meditation, right? Do you do Vipassana or something else? Because I do Vipassana regularly every day.
Hmm.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't really root it in any tradition, but it's probably closest to Vipassana, where I'm just sitting and I'm observing, but not reacting to anything, or I don't have any
Yeah,
particular thing to say or think about it.
that's basically trying to control our monkey mind.
Well, I think that's the thing, is you're not really trying to control it, as opposed to just letting it be.
Letting it be, just not paying attention to it. That's that. Uh, so if you could inject, if Lawrence could inject one philosophical idea into any person's mind, every person's mind, what would it be?
Treat people for who they are and not for what they have to offer.
I think that's one of the most difficult things. We often see people through the lenses of their jobs or through what they've achieved in life or what the education they've been there or what kind of clothes they've been wearing or the brands, but we don't do that.
No, and I think the clearest way to see the truth of existence really is if you look at the bookends of life, meaning the beginning and the end, right? You think about the
Yeah.
beginning, and I have a child, and it's phenomenal because I could see what what a human life is just at its core, right? And the way in which the human life navigates the world, and it really is just pure who you are, right? Like maybe for example, like she might notice that someone looks a little bit different, but that means nothing to her, right?
Uh,
And if anything, there's this deep sense of empathy for if there are people that look like they're not doing well. For example, like she'll say things like when she sees a homeless person in Los Angeles, like what's going on with that person? Why are they in that situation? What's going on? She's confused, right? And I think like this sense of empathy, the sense of just seeing people for who they are, it's very innate. And then when you look at people's lives toward the end, right, where you read something like Bonnie Ware's is it the regrets of the dying or something like that, and everyone just talks about, yeah, no one says on their deathbed, I wish I made more money, I wish I had more
yeah.
status. And we see these as tropes at this point. We just see these as, oh duh, like we've heard it enough times. But every time I hear about it, it's profound. So you look at the bookends of life and realize that's where truth is. A lot of time in the middle, you just get caught up in all the things that you feel like you have to do and that you got to do. But the truth of it is in the beginning and the end.
I think I completely agree. And I know I have just once believed that the actual status things, those shiny cars, those things, people see them as the main thing. But what they do not realize is because that person was pursuing mastery, these are the spoils of that. But the main thing which you need to focus on is the journey to mastery and that mastery itself. But they say, no, I don't want the mastery part. I just want those riches part.
Yeah, I mean,
Like I
if
want
you
the followers part. I don't want the content part on how that person got here from there or
yeah.
what the learnings are there. But I want those followers. I want those luxury cars. I want those this and this. But you're looking at the outcome, not the process or the inputs.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you are able to look at the process or be curious about the process, then you get inspiration. But if you look
Hmm.
just at the outcome, the results, then that's where you get envy. So when you become curious about how someone did something, or oh yeah, what is the particular lessons that they've generated or that they've experienced as
Yes.
a result of that, when that becomes the subject of your curiosity, then like you just think, oh dang, I have so much to learn from this person, and I
Yes.
become inspired. But then when you look at that person and you see like, well, how'd they get that house? Like, or it's like,
Yeah.
like that's what I'm curious about, is like that house and that car, and how that woman, or like what have you, then it's like, then you get envy. Then you start thirsting for a particular section of that person's life, and you don't get
Yes.
curious about the mastery element or the
Yes.
process behind it.
Yes. Uh, so let's go to practical advice. If you have to give a piece of advice to, let's say, someone stuck in a job, what would you give him?
My practical advice is that if this job, okay, the assumption is, this job like palatable, as in it's kind of just like okay, or is it just like they really need to get out of it?
You can give for both.
Okay, yeah. Well, if it's palatable, meaning that like it's kind of pointless, but you're there and you're just, kind of going through the motions, doesn't really do anything for you, then my advice here is that take that time to really explore what having some sort of impact in your life means. Okay?
Okay.
And not like this wide, broad impact, but feeling like you are making somewhat of a difference. I
Okay.
I think there is no one that feels like they are making a difference and thinks life is pointless. Okay? Like
That's
there
true.
there's some, find out what that may be, okay? Whether it's through writing or podcasting or even just going down and volunteering or these different things, like use that space as an exploration point, because you don't have to necessarily worry too much about how you're going to eat or where you're going to live, because the job is helping you with that.
Like the Medici family.
The Medici family is helping you with that. But if you're fortunate enough to know what that thing is, then I would encourage you to really work on that thing and dedicate the requisite time. I always say at least an hour a day to doing that, because what happens is that as you build that up, you can do it without worrying about whether it's going to make money or not. But then you'll be able to see the signals of whether that is growing or not, and then you could start transitioning into that if you feel like the time is right, or if you feel like that uncertainty is one is worth embracing at this point. Now the other situation, if your job is terrible, like if you just cannot palate it, you think that you're being just squished and so forth, then
Killing your soul.
yeah, if you're selling if that's what you feel like, then I mean, yeah, you gotta find a way to get out of there ASAP. But the way you're gonna do it is through, you have to cultivate different skill sets. You have to, at that point, it's more of like, you don't want to do the same thing in another building, right? Like you want to do something completely different. Like if a certain job is soul crushing, it's not just, I think, that job itself. I think it's the general thing you're doing if it's soul crushing. So at that point, it's really about a cultivation of different skills and also hitting up your network. I think that's such an undervalued thing, is that everyone has some sort of network. If not your family, then some friends here and there, and getting a sense of, hey, what's your industry like right now? Or what are you up to? And what can I learn from you for that? Like, I really feel like, Mohit, like the more you just want to learn from people and you just want to get a sense of what they're up to, then the window of opportunity opens up everywhere. You just have to be very curious to understand more. So yeah, in that situation, I would suggest like cultivating skill sets quick, and then also starting to contact your network to see what are the opportunities there may be, or what's possible in a given space, so you could try to transition over.
Be curious in trying to explore new things and move on. Somebody who wants to be a creator, what would you give him an advice?
Someone wants to be a creator. Do they want to do it for as a living?
Mix both.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do it, if you want to make a living from it, then it's important that you see it as a business as well.
Okay.
So there's Now, if you're creating just for creativity's sake, that's great. Just do that. But if you want to make a living from it, then you have to understand that what you're doing, you want to also translate a lot of what you're doing into something where people will be like, oh, I could sense some sort of transformation from that, right? So,
Mm.
for example, so the book, The Inner Compass, I wrote this thing purely intrinsically, really. I think I did it in about 3 to 4 months, and I just knew at that time it's going to be a book. It's going to be a book, and I feel that, and I'm just going to self-publish it because I don't want to make a proposal for it and all that. So there was that intrinsic sense of what being a creator is all about. We all understand that to some degree. But when it was done, and I'm like, okay, time to get the word out, right? Like, yes, it's great that I wrote it, and I'm very happy that I wrote it. But a big part of what would make it meaningful is if other people read it. And that would spark conversations like the one that I'm having with you. And it opens up a channel towards invitation. So in that case, I look at it as a business. It's like, I'm an entrepreneur, and my product right now is this book. So in that sense, I'm getting the word out about it, going on podcasts, discussing it. But it's all off of my own volition. This is all driven by my inner compass. I want to do this. No one is telling me, hey, Lawrence, put aside an hour in your day to talk to Mohit today because you got to get the book out there. No, it's like, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to you. And that's why I'm here. But at the same time, I understand that I'm doing this because of the general sentiment of, I want more people to know about this book, whether it's 1 or 100 or 1,000, but just someone else knows about it as a result. So this is all under the guise of, yes, you create for yourself, but do it so well and think about it in a way so others pay attention too. Like there's a dichotomy that you have to blend with both.
Absolutely. Um, Before we get into the rapid fire last part of it, I want to speak about something which uh, it was actually sublime for me. You mentioned about the pursuit of mastery, which is supposed to be a lonely thing, or at least you're doing it because you want to get better at it. And then some people say, come on, then you do not need to look at outside influence. But then you talked about something which you read about it and you wrote about it, and you said external validation is not required, but external inspiration is required. Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one would want to create or to pursue certain jobs or so forth if you had no model of someone that has done it, right? Or no idea that it's possible, really, right? So you have to have this some sort of archetype in mind that
Mhm.
makes you want to pursue something. So the trick though is that what about that archetype draws you to it? And we were kind of touching upon this. Is it the fact that this person has a lot of money? Or, like, is it the fact that this person has a certain status or so forth? Maybe. But what if it's not about that, but more so about, oh, dang, this person actually has a lot to show me in terms of what's possible through the way that they think, the way that they communicate with the world, the way that I've interpreted what they're doing. And that is what inspiration is. Like, you don't necessarily need to use validation as a proxy for how you're going to get something or what you want, but you always want someone or some set of people to inspire you to push you toward the frontiers of what's possible, right? And I think that's what inspiration does, is that it always makes you question, hey, what else is possible? Am I hitting the boundaries here? And then I look at that and it's like, oh well, that's possible. I didn't even know that's possible. Like
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have quit my finance job to do more to that if I didn't think it was possible for me to make a living. And the people that inspired me were not like Stephen King or people like that, right? I mean, they're great and all, but they don't necessarily inspire me in the same way that like someone like Tim Urban or Ali Branch or these people did, because they're also a little closer to what I'm doing.
Yeah, Stephen King is like unattainable.
Yeah, like so this is also an interesting thing about envy, for example, is that you don't envy the people that are way out there,
Yes.
right?
You
Like,
envy your friends or people who were doing something like you but have moved on better at things in life.
exactly. And that's what makes envy such a crappy emotion, because it's the
Yeah.
people that you could actually be inspired by the most where you get envy.
Yeah.
Like the friend who, for example, is writing and is I don't know, just released a cool book, and you're like, I could actually learn a lot from this person. But if I'm sitting here being envious and thinking, man, I
Yes.
want to do that too, then you close the gate to curiosity, and instead you just start to detest that person.
Absolutely. So we'll go into the rapid fire. So, 7 things. One idea from the inner compass that you think is the most powerful principle of it or will change everyone.
Everything in life comes down to two options. You can choose conviction or choose conditioning.
Yeah, fantastic. Any belief that you've recently changed your mind on?
Any belief that I recently changed my mind on? That one, I feel like I definitely have. It's just that either it happens so often that I don't quite catch it, and it's just a part of things. Well, like for example, I just got back from Korea, and Korea has always had this reputation for being like this cutthroat nation when it comes to the education system, and that all
Yes,
the
I've
kids are,
heard huge things about it.
yeah, they're just kind of put through the grind and stuff. But I actually had the chance to just like hang out with my cousin and ask him questions about it, and because his child is in the education system, and he was telling me that a lot of these things have softened now, because even people very far away from India, like from Korea, like yourself, have heard about this, and that's not the reputation they want. So they give kids more autonomy these days, and I didn't really know that. So just asking him that question, it helped to shift my mind about what I thought was true about the education system there. And I think there's a corollary there for many other things too.
One thing people misunderstand about success.
That it will put you in this place of bliss. that it's that once you attain it, there's no problems to solve. And my thing to that is that like you always want to have a problem to solve.
Yeah.
So don't think of success as a place that you strive for because you want your problems to go away. If anything, there's new problems that arise, and
Absolutely. Bingo.
and that's what you want. You do not want a life with no problems.
Yeah. It would be too boring.
Yeah, it'll be very boring. And I think like that's one of the things that Schopenhauer said. But Schopenhauer was able to say it in his fun way, but he was like, imagine a paradise where everyone had what they wanted, all the milk and honey. He's like, it's only a matter of time before man begins to hang himself. So take that for what you will.
So, your favorite illustration and why?
My favorite illustration and why. It's actually one of them is at the end of the inner compass. I'll kind of just show it right here. It's this one.
Yeah, this was pretty amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so this one I love it because this kind of just marks the end of your journey in life. And I kind of have a metaphor towards you're basically kind of climbing this uphill terrain throughout your life. And in the end, so I write here, I'll just kind of read it, it's just 2 sentences. this is how I close the book. I say, because in the end, a well-lived life is a collection of moments that were imbued with presence. So by
Absolutely.
embracing who you are today, you're contributing to the peace you'll feel in that final moment where no more tomorrows remain. Um, and that's what it really is. Like a well-lived life is you just want moments where you're present. Like that's essentially what it is, and that you could look back on it and say, hey, that was cool. That was cool. And in the illustration I have, the compass at true north next to it, next to the character,
Yeah, I saw that.
because that's how you'll feel that sense of peace in that final moment where no more tomorrows remain.
The final thing, I am also a son of a 10-year-old. You have a daughter. Uh, can you tell me one thing which parenting has taught you, which you feel like, you would regret not being a parent? You would regret have not been chosen to be a parent because nowadays youngsters are deciding not to have kids as well. So,
Yeah. Ah, man. One thing. It's like it's really this trope to say you learn something every day. I mean, it may not be profound every day, but there's always something you learn either about humanity or about yourself, really. you know,
absolutely.
and
Uh,
yeah, I think that one of the big things is that, like, compassion really is the greatest virtue. It really is. And even, parenting is full of frustrations, as I'm sure you're well aware. And the immediate impulse is, yeah, to chastise or to criticize or so forth. But when you see that your child, all they really want is your love, and that,
uh,
and like you feel that, then you're just like, oh wow, like maybe in the end that's all people want too. It's like
exactly.
you just like want to be loved, and also to have people to love. And I think my daughter shows me that every day.
The bliss and the joy you get, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. And thanks for asking me that question. I got all emotional thinking about it.
How old is she?
She's 5.
So what's her name?
I prefer not to say a name
No, 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 that's not a problem.
on a public
Um,
platform, but
no, no,
yeah,
no.
she's 5 and she's great.
Hey, this must be the cute and the naughty phase.
She's she's yeah, she's definitely cute, and she's like in this phase where she kind of just questions everything. She questions everything, and I love it. I It's interesting knowing that our default response really is to ask why and to question. And it's just like we quell that in us, and we're supposed to know the answers after a certain time, but we're always curious. It's just a matter of how much do you want to suppress it, or how much do you want to let it just flow.
Thank you so much for this. Lawrence, this was absolutely an insightful conversation. Your thoughts on clarity, meaning in a compass, I think it's going to stay with us and resonate quite a bit. To everyone watching, if today's conversation really, really helped you think about something, I'm sure this was your inner compass. Follow it. Check out Lawrence's book, The Inner Compass. I actually loved it. And his blog is there, more to that. That's also amazingly sublime articles. Please read through them. And if you're like me, take a printout and read it properly. I am Mohit, Mohit's Mantra. Until next time, thrive and not just survive. Thank you.